cite some of your musical influences?
I get a lot of guitar tapping techniques from Dave Knudsen from Minus the Bear. I've listened to a lot of Godspeed You Black Emperor, Zeros, Explosions in the Sky, stuff like that.
It's almost over, it's just begun. Don't overthink this, look in my eye. Don't be scared, don't be shy, come on in the waters.
Neat Nation, welcome back to the Droopy Whiskey Show.
Everyone, what is going on? It is Brian.
Neat Nation.
Everyone, what is going on? It is Brian. We are back.
Neat Nation, welcome back.
Everyone, what is going on? It is Brian.
Bow. Yeah, that's my favorite part. Neat Nation, happy Thursday. Welcome back to Entry Proof Live with me and with my good friend Brian at Abandoned Bourbon. Brian, welcome per usual. Stoked to hang out with you for a little bit. You were a little late getting in, but on time. Late compared to usual, but still on time.
I was lately on time.
Yeah, I mean, no issues here as far as I'm concerned, because I think I texted you when we're like 90 seconds from going live, and I said 90 seconds, but then you were in before you probably even got there.
Oh, I don't even see a text. Oh, there's a text.
Yeah, I don't even think I'm going to bother with a text in the future because you're on it. You're with it.
I was eating some Mediterranean food, getting a little wood-fired salmon and some wood-fired vegetables, because it's good to eat your vegetables, kids.
Yeah,
it's good.
I mean, if you're going to be drinking light whiskey, you eat healthy food. Nice thing about the Mediterranean foods, very, very rich in flavor, very delicious, very authentic, like real, legitimate foods. I've been eating a lot of bagels and brioche buns and stuff.
Oh, dude, I've had so many bagels this week.
Yeah, it's a big bagel guy. Nation, we're talking about light whiskey, and I'm going to hit you with an agenda here in a little bit, because I have this whole short, but as I would, an agenda to go through related to light whiskey. Why does it matter? Who cares? What's the deal with it? Is it diet whiskey? We're going to get into that, and we're going to also, yeah, absolutely.
Is it safe
and we're
for
going to
Lent?
talk anything safe for Lent if you're Protestant. Unless, do Lutherans celebrate Lent? I feel like they might. They kind of pick and choose from Catholicism the stuff that they like. No offense to Lutherans in the chat. That was overgeneralization on the Lutheran condition. So anyway, we're going to talk about how bottled in bond relates to light whiskey too, because I feel like that's an interesting topic. And today is Bottled in Bond Day. So if your denomination is, if you're team bottled in bond, or if you're a team light whiskey, if you're a team barrel proof, this show is for you. This is an equal opportunity show where we don't judge your religion, nor do we judge your taste in whiskey. But first, we got to get into the usual shtick. First, Perry, what's up? I think you were streaming talking about bottled in bond stuff. So I'm specifically referencing Perry from This Is My Bourbon podcast and YouTube channel, who was streaming just a little bit earlier. And then hi to everybody. I tried to say a bunch of highs in the chat before we jumped in, but hi to the 37 people in here, and then everybody who will watch this in post. Just remind everybody, I did cut out the ads so they no longer interrupt your listening experience if you listen to this later on. Of course, if you watch this live, you've never had to deal with ads like interrupting in the middle of the video. That would be weird in a live stream. Okay, we're gonna get to light whiskey. I need to tease. Porkins had to bail. He may still be in the chat, but he's not gonna be around. but he did give us a 5 whiskey blind, and I'll just tease this for a minute for those of you who want to hang around for the second hour. We have 5 samples. We have at least 2 samples that are the same. You will never be drinking the same product at the same time because Brian's number 1 and Drew's number 1 are different, and so on. You each have at least 3 samples that are whiskey. You each have at least 4 samples from the United States, and we need to work together as a team. Taste through the samples, give your notes, and ask questions to each other. The goal is to figure out which samples you have that are identical and what are different. If you want to, make guesses, but you are unlikely to get anything exactly correct. Thank you for that.
Oof.
Yep. Didn't send 2 single barrels from one distillery and expect you to call them out as different. If there are 2 different bottles from one distillery, they will be bottled by different brands and have different mash bills. So if it was MGP, it'd be different bottlings and different mash bills of MGP. He says, my advice would be that to have one of you start with their number 1 and the other to nose 2 through 5 and find ones that could be similar and then taste and then come to a conclusion. Then have the other player start with their number 1 and the second player nose through theirs and so on. So we have to find out which 2. I mean, the ultimate goal is to taste and discuss the whiskeys and then pick out the 2 that we have that are the same, even though there will be different numbers. So hence my tag on the thumbnail, come with us on a whiskey journey. This is a very unique tasting challenge. And this was Porkins' idea totally. He's like, can I send you something interesting? And I said, yes, please do that. And we're willing to try anything. So, and when we do that, when we move to this section of the live, Tom will drop in a link. So if you want to follow along with what we're tasting, you can do that because Tom's got the link from Porkins to help you all track along with us. Cool. All right. Jimmy the Kid asked a great question, which we will get to. First question, why are light whiskeys, for the most part, really high in proof? When we get to the definition of what light whiskeys are, it does kind of explain that. But first, Brian, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking this Bull Run American whiskey.
Which I believe is a light whiskey, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to get into the specifics.
It seems that way.
Because, it tastes that way. I think it's all from the same stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of it in the cycles right now. People have kind of caught on to that it's generally goodish, and so there's a lot kind of making the rounds. I also, given the theme, am drinking a light whiskey. This one being the one that has shown up on this stream several times. My second bottle of Obtainium light whiskey. It is MGP. It is 13 years old, and this one is 68.5% alcohol by volume. Given, again, the specs on this, the definitions for what makes light whiskey, the color is kind of always surprising to me because it looks like it's aged in, it looks like it could be bourbon, basically, based on the color. What bottles did you get this week, Brian? Or did you? I believe you did. I think I saw a tier 7 pickup.
Let me see if I have that here. It might be in the car. Let me see. It's one of these. I'm getting there. Yep. 2 things this week. So I got, I'm trying to send this thing on my phone and went to Kristen's phone. And then she's trying to send it back to me on AirDrop and it's going to the computer, which is not what it's not what I want. So I got another 4 Roses pick that OESQ, but it's a tier 6. It's from this run I've not had before. OESQs are kind of weird too, but for anyone who didn't realize, we've talked a lot about roses here. And I was talking about doing, more Roses content. We threw it out to Patreon and we talked on live stream. And I said I was going to commit to doing 1 single barrel a month. And with that, there's a certain level of tiers on the Patreon. They're going to get randomly entered to win a sample. And we're going to do that every month. Well, I went ahead, though, and started the 7th tier channel on YouTube. So now I have a channel that is 100% Roses content, and
you just went for it.
I'll be doing probably 2 reviews a week on that channel, and still monthly we'll be popping a single barrel and doing samples for Patreon. So anyway, I just threw that link in here. Anyone didn't know that? That's seventh tier. If you want more roses content, and then snagged this
Nice.
this stag pick, this no junior stag pick. So
no junior.
Those are my
so
two
one
pickups.
of the earlies.
Yeah, one of the earlies. No junior.
Where's that pick from? Where's that pick from?
Kroger.
Interesting. So somehow Kroger got one of the early. I mean, there's not that many stag picks happening right now, but that one dropped out at Kroger. That's cool, I guess. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe some random grocery store up here will get a stag junior pick.
Well, and it's what I texted you all too in our little chat group. You know, I've never, I don't think I've ever bought a stag at like a grocery store or like the cheap kind of store retail. Anytime I ever got a stag junior, it was at one of the like smaller stores in Louisville, and it was, you know, in the 60, 70 range, but this was years ago. It's probably been 3 or 4 years since I got a stag junior.
Yeah,
so to get a stag junior, let alone a pick, was awesome.
Sorry, I'm trying to get into these samples from Porkins. The dude goes hard, like he does a great job preparing, and then he vacuum seals the samples, which is awesome. They don't leak anywhere. Like 10 out of 10 sample guy, Porkins. But it's a little hard to get into if you're not carrying a pocket knife, which, do I look like a kind of guy who carries a pocket knife?
I'm going to be screwed opening these up then.
Sick.
I've got some pencils and I got some crayons, so hopefully one of the two of those.
Yeah,
will
I just used a pen.
Used
a pen to stab through this. Kyle says he's sipping some Nassif Reserve, which is a blend of light whiskey, young bourbon, and young rye. Pretty sick. What else y'all drinking, Nash? Stoked to see what you guys are sipping. I saw some folks earlier said they were drinking some light whiskey, getting the mood. Other people crushing some bottled and bonds. So let's see it in the chat. What are y'all drinking tonight? 5 different whiskeys. Wow. Okay. I'm going to go easy on this light whiskey. One thing I also recognized, which he's not in the chat right now, but we got to make Porkins an admin. Like, the dude is here every week and contributing samples like a boss.
He's the best. He's the best.
Yeah, we haven't even wrenched that guy. I didn't wrench him up.
I did come up with one of the Ambruana finished. He was talking about the Kachot, whatever. He's been talking about that, how he really wanted to get one. So hooked him up with one of those recently. So I didn't exactly catch what he thought about it, but either way, really appreciate that, dude. Nicholas, you're right, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Stag Junior is one of, if it's impossible. I don't know if it's because it's just tatery enough that all the taters like get it before I do. I don't know. I mean, it's, I don't know.
Hashtag Tater Nation.
Hashtag Tater Nation.
And I know, like, you don't hunt Stag Junior as you would a King of Kentucky either. So some of it depends on how hard you're going after it. Because I feel like if you go after one, you won't stop until you get it. Whereas others, you're like, whatever, I didn't get Stag Junior. It's not a big deal. But I love Stag Junior. Like, to me, it'd be a big deal. To a lot of people, it is. But I mean, if you live in the motherland, which I mean, by now, those of us who know you and others in the motherland, by that I mean Louisville. Not Germany or Russia, which, yeah, not to bring up a sore subject or anything.
Well, you remember me talking also, it's probably been equally as long. It was probably the bottle I got 3 or 4 years ago when I had one. And, I just didn't love Stag Junior at that time. This is, gosh, what batch we have been on? 7, 8, maybe. Maybe earlier than that. I don't remember. And so I I stopped going out of my way looking for it. And it wasn't until recently that people, it seemed like people were like really talking up the batches. And so I kind of got interested in it again. And it's too late, it's just not something I can easily acquire. I guess I could trade or something like that for one, but just never high up on my list too. So
sure.
Looking forward to it though. I'm assured that it's gonna be a delectable.
Somebody assured you of that?
Yeah.
Who anyway. I was gonna say, who assured you? Like, what's your confidence level in this person's opinion?
Well, he's the guy who picked it. So
Oh, okay. There's a bias there.
Yeah, a little bit. So,
all right. Well, let's get into this thing. Let me bring up my notes here. First, though, Brian, I want to get you. I don't know how much I did. Quite a bit of reading on this subject to make sure that I have my facts straight. Especially if Porkins isn't going to be with us to fact check us. Yeah. But if I were to ask you generally as a consumer regarding your perception and how you've seen this product evolve, what's the deal with light whiskey? How would you kick us off?
Well, this is where I'll be interested to hear you chime in, because to me, and it's specifically when I'm talking about brands, like we look at Penelope, for example, it says American light whiskey. You have Bull Run, for example, it says American whiskey. Now, I don't even know if this is the same extent, but we have our Dancing Goat American corn whiskey pick. Is it light whiskey? There's a lot of American whiskeys, American light whiskeys, corn whiskeys out and around right now. And even when it comes to, maybe Penelope says, but even with the Bull Run, I thought I remember people being like, is this 95.5? Like, oh, it's 95.5. And some people are like, no, it's 100%. And people are like, no, it's 99% and then 1%. And then people are like, no, it's the same. It's the same recipes. It's just in an old. There's a lot of stuff out there, and so it's kind of a mess. But the one thing I feel like I always go back to is that it's aged in used barrels instead of new charred oak barrels.
Yeah, there are specifications, which we'll get into, like that. There's definitions for what light whiskey is. It's helpful, and it does distinguish from corn whiskey. We'll get into that in a second, though. But from a consumer standpoint, let's talk about that before we get into the specs, because I'll tease this, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. But when I first saw light whiskey on the shelf, there was some like weird blue label light whiskey that is very light in color. That I've never been tempted to buy. And then when I saw Obtainium light whiskey, I'm like, I don't know. And there's a Kessler's like a Kessler's edition that says blended light whiskey on it. And I'm going, they must be they're like positioning this as a diet product, which is why, I put this in the show notes. So when I first saw Obtainium, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not like, why would I get a light whiskey? What is that? I don't know what that is. So somebody in the chat said that's light whiskey is just awful branding. Oh, Nicholas, light whiskey is just bad branding. It certainly is rough because the definitions aren't as well known as we've already manifested, as we already exhibited. The definitions for what light whiskey isn't as well known. So anyway, it took me a little while to be like, okay, let's try it. And it was only when Eric Sawyer pinged me and said, hey, there's this 375, this 16-year light whiskey for like $30. You can get this 375 milliliter. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, the risk is pretty low at that point. Somebody did a pick of it. So let's just try it. Let's see what this light whiskey thing is about. And then I was like, oh, okay, there's something to this. What was your journey in terms of your awareness with light whiskey?
Yeah, I mean, say that one more time.
What was your awareness? Like, what was your journey in terms of like gaining an awareness about
okay,
light
whiskey? That's what I thought you said. I wanted to make sure I didn't start answering it wrong. I didn't really pay attention. When I heard light whiskey, I don't think I ever thought about it being like a diet thing or whatever. My first experience was a couple of years back when I was getting ready to prep for Coffee and Good Spirits competition. So in coffee championships, and yes, it sounds weird from the outside, but in coffee,
awesome.
there are annual competitions, and part of it are for like baristas who are doing espresso service. Some people are brewers, so they're just manually brewing coffee. And then there's some more fine-tuned stuff, roasting and all this stuff. Well, one of them that they brought into the United States a couple of years back is called Coffee and Good Spirits, which is coffee and cocktails. And so I wanted to compete for this, and I was just randomly chit-chatting with the Carters. This is when they first separated out of Kentucky Owl and we're starting to do Old Carter. And I don't know, we were just chit-chatting across social media, and I don't even know how it happened. They just started interacting with me, and we were interacting back and forth, and I reached out saying something like, I'm looking for spirits to work with for this competition. What would you all be considering sponsoring me, or could I use some of your product or something like that? And they had me come visit them in Lexington at the Justin's House of Bourbon there. And
sick.
We tried American whiskey, and I was like, this is what I'm going to use. This 139.1 proof thing that's it. That's what I'm going to use. Is this 12-year-old, light whiskey or American whiskey. And, I just remembered tasting it and being like, oh, what is this? It's so intensely flavored. And they're like, oh yeah, it's like it's aged in used barrels, but it's really old. So you still get a lot of the flavor picked up. And I'm like, dang, that's pretty cool. And then, from there, we tried other stuff too, like the 27-year-olds, blah, 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 all this other crap. But so from there, it didn't really spin me down a rabbit hole. But I think that's when I first got put on my radar that this is a category that is, something worth notice, because it, from there, a lot of people, that is one of the lines of products of Old Carter they really like. Some people really into the bourbons, some really into the ryes. I know that some of the bourbons have probably popped between Kentucky and Tennessee or Indiana, wherever, just, as a base. But I feel like a lot of people have been like, dude, the American whiskeys have been where it's at.
All right. So let's get into this a little bit in terms of what it is, right? So, like I said, seems like a diet product. I put on here, is it keto-friendly? It's not at all a diet product. Let's go back to the 60s. And I'm going to shout out a few people here. I think it was Whiskey Wash had an article. Jason at Mash and Drum had a video. And then there's actual government regulations. There are a few other more historical resources on what light whiskey is and how it came about. But just want to make sure I shout out, we're not the first people to talk about this. There's nothing new under the sun. Come on. Anyway, it's 1960s. This is when this first came about as a thing, or at least a regulated thing. And it was in response to the fact that, whiskey was not exactly booming late in the 60s. Cocktail culture, but not using bourbon, was a thing. And I think it was 68, light whiskey as a definition for a whiskey variety, a methodology for making whiskey became a thing. And the thinking was, let's try and make something that doesn't taste like whiskey, or that's really easy to mix, is sweet, is palatable. And also became really, really cheap to make because it's much looser specs than bourbon. Like bourbon can't come off the still higher than 160.
Yeah, and this is 160, right?
160 to 190. It can come off basically full alcohol. Like just any residual flavor from the grain you can distill away, basically. So it is whiskey. That means it's grain based, right? We're not using whatever they use to make tequila, agave, to make this. It's grain based. And then you are correct that it is also aged in used cooperage. Now I don't know if you distill something north of 160, you can't call it bourbon. It's not, straight whiskey at that point. So what if you distilled at 180, let's say, and then you aged that in brand new cooperage? What is that then? Is that not light whiskey? That's one question I have that I don't have an answer to, is what's the designation for that particular product? So anyway,
I would argue that you could still call that light whiskey if you wanted to.
I would think so too. It just goes
categorically has to be used. I just think that it can't be bourbon if it's not new.
Yeah, I mean, it was generally
American
aged
whiskey.
in used cooperage to give it a more mellow flavor. Like again, the
I think
thinking was
Tom's
like,
right.
how do
I
we
think
give
you
this
just
thing
call it
just
American
mellow?
whiskey.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could do that. Thank you, Tom. That was a low-hanging fruit answer, but I appreciate it. So why would people do this?
Is it Michter's American whiskey like that?
I don't know.
I don't think theirs is used. I don't think theirs is used. I think they call it American whiskey, but it's distilled the same. I could
at a light, you mean north of 160? Yeah, I don't know. Or it could be just a blend of bourbon and rye and corn whiskey.
Oh yeah, that's true.
To make the distinction between a corn whiskey, like for it to be a corn whiskey, it has to come off the still 160 or below. So that is like a parameter to call it corn whiskey or rye. Like basically you could make a corn whiskey mash or a rye mash or a bourbon mash, but then if you distill it north of 160 coming off the still, it doesn't matter what the mash is at that point, as long as it's grain mash, it could be light whiskey. So Kyle says that Michter's American is in used cooperage, so it's probably a bourbon mash bill aged in used cooperage. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. That's doing these lives is easy. You just have to bring up a topic and then just read what the chat says. Anyway, the goal. What was the goal of light whiskey? The goal, yes, Tim is kind of correct. It's fake vodka. It's American vodka, but still, like, these were whiskey producers making this stuff, and there were all kinds of shenanigans people did to try and appeal to the cocktail culture, the vodka, the gin peeps, from filtering already aged bourbon to creating light whiskey. So stuff coming off the still really high, aged in used cooperage, diluted down. And when something's come off the still at 160 to 190 and then you're bottling it 80 proof, that's a lot of dilution you can get. So it's fairly cost effective to make. And if you don't really care what the flavor is, it doesn't have to spend much time in a used barrel, which is why you'll still see, what is the name of that brand? There's a freaking weird brand of light whiskey and a blue label, and I got to find out what it is because I'm sure it's awful. It's just like barely colored at all. But
it's not Copper Sky.
I'll spare you all. I'll look for it later when you're talking, Brian. I'll get you on a topic and then I'll try and find out what the name of that brand was. It's got a very baseball look to it. Anyway. So yeah, that was the shtick. And light whiskey is still made in mass. The thinking is the general consensus behind the light whiskey that we're getting now out of MGP is that these barrels were laid down for use in things like Seagram 7. And all, some producers manufacture light whiskey for like a brand like Kessler's. So there are plenty of uses for this product, but what we've seen is as it's aged, 13 years, 16 years in some cases, it actually tastes pretty dang good. Whereas it was never expected, to carry on much flavor when it sits even in the used cooperage at high proof for a long time. It extracts some yummy from these barrels. Butterscotch is a note that shows up in pretty much every light whiskey review, at least these aged MGP light whiskeys. And I think it's a fair note. Brian, I didn't watch your bull run video. I'm sorry, I apologize. But what are some notes you're pulling out of those bull runs that you have?
It's really cakey sweet.
Cake is another one.
Yeah, I'm not on the bull run right now, but it's like Dunkaroos. It's like vanilla frosting and like white, yellow, whatever cake.
Which I'm all about that. Really nice sweetness.
The thing that's tricky about it is that, man, I'm trying to remember the Obtainium versus some of the Carters versus these, because I know a lot of people are like, oh man, the bull run stuff, it's the exact same as the Carter. And I'm like, I thought I remember the old Carter that I remember having being kind of similar to the Obtainium, where it's kind of cinnamon and oak, but also sweet. And these bull runs and even the Penelope are way more desserty qualities. They're way more decadent in in a sheet cake sort of way.
Yeah.
Where it's like drink in moderation or like try and tease apart some of the nuance, but know that it's going to get real rich real quick.
wasn't it a barrel product that we had like a single barrel that was light whiskey that was super cakey and it was awesome? Somebody sent us one. Maybe it was Porkins.
Probably.
I would buy a bottle of that right away. No questions asked. So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, right now I switched. I don't even remember which one I'm on. I'm either on one of the bull runs. I think I pulled the bull run again. So I've tasted through both of them that I have and the Penelope. And yeah, this one's nice. It came off a little salty too. So like saltiness on top of super rich decadence is almost like too much. It's too much in some regards, but it tamed down as the bottle was open.
Yeah. One thing I'd say is if you get one of these, Nash, don't hesitate to add a little water. I mean, this one is near hazmat, 68.5%. The other one I had was hazmat. Some of them are crazy. So like, don't be afraid to add a little water. It actually helps bring out the sweetness, tone down that heat a little bit. So, where it's Neat Nation, it's mostly Neat Nation. I mean, Neat Nation, but add water if you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not a way of, it's a way. Yeah. It's more of a lifestyle. It's not necessarily how you drink your whiskey. So bottom line conclusions, and then what we're going to talk about, I have a really interesting bottle here that I'm going to pop in a minute, but conclusions are, I am in on the light whiskey, bourbon. I like the spiciness, the richness, the funkiness that comes with bourbon, and there's not really spiciness and there's not really oaky depth yet. There's not really funkiness, that comes out of these products. They're sweet and they're cakey, but I love them for that. When you want something that's easy drinking, but it'll still get you with the proof, these light whiskeys crush. And I would say there's probably a couple more takes to make too. Is one of the reasons that I picked up steam here recently is because well-aged bourbons are much harder to find and much more expensive, right? There was a supply of available light whiskey through MGP that they were like liquidating. They're like, get it out of here. And so these brands like Obtainium could buy 13-year light whiskey and then sell it at $50, which is a value for the quality of juice that's in the bottle. That said, Gene Nassif, the main dude / owner at Cat's Eye Distillery, which is the distillery behind the Obtainium brand, which is their sourced brand. He said, like, I can't get any more light whiskey from MGP at the prices where I can sustain my line. So I'm looking to source from other places. He posted this maybe on one of the Wisconsin groups, or maybe it was Bourbon Junkies. I saw it somewhere. But I thought that was interesting. It seems like there was decent supply that once people realized, oh, this is actually good stuff, it got bought up pretty quick. But I think that well-aged stock is probably not going to last very long. It initially started to hit, I think, in 2018, 2019. You saw a High West release. High West did a 14-year light whiskey release. So if anybody had that, put it in the show notes or the chat here and let us know how that was, because that would be cool to taste for sure. But my guess is that these well-aged stocks are a flash in the pan. They showed up in 2018. People got wise in 2020 to 2021, and they're going to be gone kind of tomorrow. So my recommendation is, if you like high-proof whiskey, if you like a sweet whiskey, and if you're generally like turned off by, nuttiness, get this. If you like barrel-proof scotch, get this. It's not super scotchy because it's not malty, but it's reminiscent of some barrel-proof scotches that I've had. It just lacks the malty kind of tactile. It's still viscous, but there's like a pillowiness to a barrel-proof malt. It's interesting. Any other thoughts on light whiskey, Brian, before I talk about this ghost bottle I have next to me here?
Yeah, I mean, just again, to kind of sum up what's the deal with light whiskey? This is, if you are one who is open to explore whiskey and flavors and diversity and stuff, you're not set in a specific narrow lane, it's definitely something to go after. But again, the terms are thrown around all over the place. There's still some mysteriousness behind what exactly you're getting. So, my caution would be, with some of these brands, as with any brand that is NDP, would just be, use your best judgment when it comes to buying that. Again, you got some brands that are charging upwards of $100 for, or $200 in some cases, as a product that within this bull run was like a $44 bottle, in the end.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's anyone else who's going to charge cheaper than something like that. But, and again, I it's hard for me to say, is it the same? Is it not the same? Is there more discerning, or is it a different broker that people are using? You can't tell in this day and age, because it very much could be as simple as, we have a brand and we're going to charge more because of it. So I would say use discernment when it comes to that. You are going to get a sweet, oaky sort of profile. It's not going to be your traditional bourbon flavors, but if you're one who doesn't mind, like Drew said, exploring Scotch, rye, bourbon, finished products, you want to add
Canadian
something
whiskey.
else that's going to Canadian whiskey, something that's going to give you just something different. And I would say too, this is a little bit different than light whiskey specifically, but like, it opens up the door to what is categorized as just bourbon or just rye or something like that. Because the other day when I was trying some of these light whiskeys, and then I tried our Dancing Goat American corn whiskey pick. So again, I don't know exactly where you would put that, but our corn whiskey at 7 years old, like, was slaughtering some of these other whiskeys for the depth and the layers that it had to it. And maybe just because it wasn't just
Spanish oak.
Like
it's the
candied
Spanish
sweet.
oak.
I mean, yeah. But so I would say just use an open mind when it comes to this stuff. And again, I would say err on the side of assuming that it's going to be a little bit sweeter of a profile. But there's one last thought that I had. Oh, it was on the thought that you were talking about, why everyone started gravitating towards it. I think we had a season where age statements were going away. They're disappearing. And regardless of it being a light whiskey, I honestly think people were buying any whiskey that's out there that had an age statement. If it's not Scotch, Scotches have had age statements for a while for the most part. But, if it had an age statement, people were willing to buy it because they said, I want something like that. And I would much rather take my chance on a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year light whiskey than another 6-year MGP product.
Yeah, and that gets to kind of the point that Jimmy the Kid here is talking about. He's not had many light whiskeys. You mentioned complexity. Why should someone chase high age bourbon versus high age and high proof light whiskey? It's apples to oranges. So I wouldn't say you should chase this to the exclusion of a high age bourbon. But I don't imagine that this is very good at 7 years old or 8 years old. It probably doesn't have a lot going on. It probably tastes like alcohol with some sweetness. But I think it's the combination of the time in the barrel and the generally sweet mash bill. It's got to be at least, I think, 80% corn actually to be light whiskey. I think I read that somewhere. I don't know if that's true. No, it has to be 80% corn to be corn whiskey. That's what it is. Light whiskey can be anything. But anyway, they're generally very high corn mash bills, though, for people who are making them, because the introduction of, like a rye or a wheat is going to add some other flavors, whereas they wanted this to be hella mellow. So going back to my point is it's a good value for good whiskey with an age statement, which is kind of a sexy bonus. But I think you have to get this at high age in order for it to be delicious. You don't see people like, hey, here's a 7-year-old light whiskey, please buy it, because I think it probably tastes awful. But again, I wouldn't chase this to the exclusion of buying high-aged bourbon. Completely different profiles. Well, one more note, Jimmy the Kid. Oh, just real quick, and then you jump in, please. Jimmy the Kid had asked earlier about why these tend to be high proof. It's because it's so high proof coming off the mash bill. I kind of insinuated that, but I wanted to make sure coming off the still, not mash bill. My brain's in too many places. It's really high proof, over 160 proof coming off the still. Therefore, it's prone to be much higher coming out the barrel. All right. What was your thought, Brian?
I was going to say, I wouldn't necessarily go after it just because of the proof. Although once you get up into hazmat, so above 70%, I think it is just regardless of what alcohol it is, you're kind of like, I'm intrigued by death. Let's dabble a little bit. So, I think that is slightly interesting to people. But then in regards to the high, I would think that this is similar. So not necessarily profile-wise similar to Scotch, but age is probably slightly similar to Scotch. So if we're talking about a light
in
whiskey,
terms of
the
how
reason
much
we go into
oak-
higher ages,
I think that's a
is
great
because the barrel's already used, and so the color, you're not going to get as much color.
Great take.
And you've already gotten a bunch of the wood caramelization and stuff that's going in there. So you're not going to have as much penetration anymore. You're not going to get as much oak or oak tannins in there. A 13-year light whiskey is going to be, to me, it could fall in line flavor-wise with like a 6 to 8 year normal bourbon. But it's the notes
like
are
a
just so
cast
much
strength.
different.
Yeah, correct. All right, so I'm going to tee you up with another topic, but I want to tell people what this is. This is Hezekiah Crane. So this is 14-year-old light whiskey that was rebarreled in another used cask for a little while. This is a brand that was made for Hezekiah Holding, somebody who just probably a friend of the Nassif family. So let me read this to you. Finished and bottled for Hezekiah Holdings, bottled by Cat's Eye Distillery, distilled in Indiana. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So they call this Deep Oak American Whiskey. Single barrel cask strength, 115 proof. This is batch number 1. So there's only 144 bottles of this made. And I have one. So this says Deep Oak American Whiskey. Our single barrel Deep Oak American Whiskey is selected from our warehouse stocks for superior flavor and oils. Then specially finished in hand-selected used oak whiskey casks to further enhance the oils and depth of oak flavor notes. Presented at cask strength and NCF for connoisseurs of the finest aged American whiskeys. So hella rare. Super interesting, awful branding, but what it is like a special light whiskey project, and I'm going to bottle pop it for you all because I know how much you like the bottle pops. You're welcome. That's what we do here for you all. The problem is, you'll notice, though, if you look very closely, this is a wax seal with no pull. So I now have to fuss with this for the next hour and a half. I'm going to cut myself. Yeah, well, which is not good. So I'm going to tee you up now, Brian, because this is a good topic. When I got into bourbon, 2015 is when I started to get into whiskey, probably actively around the time my son was born, and maybe a little bit before that. And, bottled in bond was, people just, it was like, give me a simple bourbon, and finishing kind of had an air of people didn't like it as much because it's not bourbon anymore. That Jimmy Russell take of, anything to it, you can't call it bourbon no more or something. And while that's true, like among bourbon loyalists, there was a hesitancy to other products. So bottled in bond was a badge of honor that these whiskeys wore and that people drank with loyalty. And now we've just fully embraced finished whiskeys. And now we've fully embraced something like light whiskey, which I would imagine even as early as 2015, 2016, people would have been like, what is this garbage? This isn't bourbon. Walk me through on Bottled and Bond Day, maybe the old school affection for Bottled and Bond, but how you think the market got to the point where we're just like, yeah, give me the light whiskey.
Okay, so, I'm not going to go into what all the Bottled and Bond Act did and all the specs and all that stuff, but,
that's well-worn road.
The Bottled and Bond Act came a long time after Prohibition. So, wait, no, Prohibition came, what the heck am I talking
before.
It was before.
It was way before.
There's, what the heck am I talking? There's a pretty large distance. So for some reason I thought it was the 1800s. It doesn't stop the point anyway.
Prohibition? You thought Prohibition? Because Bottled and Bond Act was 1897.
1897 and not 19. Yeah. And so for some reason it doesn't matter. Either way, what was taking place when Bottled and Bond came in are folks wanting to know that there was truth, authenticity, that there was
I gotta get a knife. I'll be back.
Something of substance to back up that what they're getting is legit. And in a time where anyone could just go in and get whiskey, they wanted to have that certification. And a lot of products still seem to be pretty, they follow those borders. But there's one quote, I feel like I wanted Drew to be here for this, but there was one quote that I read, and I don't even remember who said something about it specifically, if it was Jay Ehrman or who it was, but I had read this quote that said, "Bottled and Bond has never guaranteed quality, but it has guaranteed authenticity and purity." So I think in our time, we haven't necessarily, or in a different way, we've not had to deal with those latter things, right? For the most part, except for trying to figure out NDPs, which does bring us to the light whiskey. So I'm kind of juggling a couple of thoughts in once, but they were wanting to make sure that what you see is what you get, because there was no way of seeing that. Things are a little bit, no, I haven't. I'm trying to just gather my thoughts. I don't think we're necessarily concerned with purity. I don't think we're concerned with purity, exampled by the fact that we have blueberry watermelon flavored bourbons, and we have peach apricot brandy and rum finished ryes. We
shout out Seagrass.
We've done so many things that seem to show that we're not really bothered by the purity and in authenticity side of things right now.
Yeah,
we want something that
new,
is quality,
neophiles,
or something new. Lately, we're the new. So what I find interesting is now, a lot of not all of them, I was trying to make lists. A lot of the bottled and bond products are still bottom shelf products. Nothing about them is overall flashy, unless they're a dusty, in which case the flavor profile we like, but it was better than the 96 proof the 86 proof and 90s of the day. But still, of the day, they were still lower. I think it's exceptional when you can find a bottled and bond product that also comes with extra layers. So like while I'm not huge on it, I know Drew is, Henry McKenna, a 10-year bottled and bond product at $30, $25, $27, whenever that came, like, I can see why that was a big deal. The old Fitzgerald decanters and having old aged products that are bottled and bond, William Heavenhill, when they do bottled and bond, I can see why those things are unique. But at this point in time, like you said, what has driven us to light whiskeys is the fact that quality, the fact that like exciting flavor, the fact that good flavor doesn't always necessarily come from bottled and bond products.
Yeah. So, I mean, shout out Bottled and Bond, as you said, because I heard everything. I had my headphones in. So, I think you're definitely on, like, it's guaranteeing an authenticity thing. And as fans of bourbon, the authenticity of a brand and America, that tugs at our heartstrings a little bit. But because, like, the market is saturated now and, like, there's so many different straight bourbons, you're like, okay, fine, another straight bourbon. Who gives a crap? Then shows up this high age statement, which we all love an age statement. It's, I think that's actually just part of loving whiskey is you want something that's sat in a barrel for a long time. Like it's this, I'm partaking of something that took forever to make. And so like a 4-year-old product against a 14-year-old product, the 14-year-old product is just more interesting all by itself. Like, and yeah, it could taste the exact same, but I think you'll get a richer sense of existence drinking the old age statement. You'll probably pay for it. it wouldn't stand out necessarily better in a blind in certain cases. Well, just assuming that the quality was the same. Of course, the one that's older is not going to stand out more in a blind. But if you're just pouring out of a bottle, you're sharing with your friends, like something that ties you to history resonates with you. So the age statement shows up, and then the newness of like, oh yeah, I haven't had light whiskey, or oh, I just had one and it was great, I want to try another one, versus trying another bourbon when you have 120 bourbons on your shelf or whatever. Now, granted, I'm still super into the bourbon. I'm not going to get a whole shelf full of light whiskey because I think there's probably less variation given the way it's made and its flavor profile. But I think that's why we're eager to be like, yeah, give me some of that stuff. So,
yeah,
only 9 likes, people.
Michael Hall brought up a really good point,
really
about Bottled and Bond, which I don't feel like a lot of people, talk about is, one of the facts of Bottled and Bond being that it needs to be made in the same distillation season. So it is taking something and saying this product comes from this time. I feel like one of the only people that I see talk about that would be Fred Minnick. Fred Minnick usually takes something, talks about the age, or if it's Bottled and Bond, we'll talk about it. And he says, in blank, I was doing this. And that's interesting to me. So, that's an interesting point when it comes to Bottled and Bond.
Yeah, I like that. All right, let's talk about Hezekiah Crane. I'm going to review this live, neck pour, and then we'll get into our blind from Porkins. The nose is much sweeter, or no, it's not much sweeter, but it's a lot richer. Like I actually get a little more depth. The sweetness goes from cakiness to caramels. Like I get legit caramel out of this one, and probably get a suggestion more oak as well. It's relatively similar age statement to the Obtainium. So Obtainium's 13-year proof is near hazmat, so it's 68.5% alcohol. And then this one is 57.5% alcohol, but 1 year older. So 115 proof on the Hezekiah Crane. Really delightful nose. Yeah. I got this kind of floralness too. It's not too dissimilar from some Four Roses, some of the less spicy Four Roses. It's still pure sweetness, but it's got this floral honey note that I'm digging to. Wow. Holy smokes. This fills the mouth in a really unique, remarkable, delicious way. Wow. MSRP on this was like $60 too, which is why I got it. I was like 14-year-old anything. I fell for the marketing, but gosh, it's pretty good. Let me try and pull some notes out.
More like Hezewawa, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I'm gonna go try and hunt some of these down. I might give up on my lack of buying strategy here.
How much time do you have left in that?
2 months.
Whew. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it. So the caramel note is huge. Gosh, it's got some baking spices though that are subtle, but it adds a lot. Like a touch of dried fruit. It's so much more complex than the other light whiskeys that I've had, which have been kind of single note, big sweetness, delicious. But this has some wood influence. It's the most viscous thing ever. I see what they're doing, trying to, highlight something that's like, let's just play big on viscosity, but it's big on everything else. I mean, this is a top shelf pour. I'm just struggling to articulate. I had to dig here. I got to focus. I got to get into my mind palace here. Why don't you talk for a minute and let me just.
Yeah, well, talking about a top shelf pour while you're thinking on some notes. So Tom Lynch, shout out nation, Tom Lynch, Lynch Wrench. The Lynch Wrench was in town this past weekend, nice. And we got to hang out. Not as much as I would have liked, probably to his benefit. But we went out to dinner one night, and the waiter, we were just talking about pours. He had asked us about Lucky 7, and we were considering some stuff. And later at the end of the night, he came back and he said that he showed us the bottle of Lucky 7 14-year proprietor with like this much left in it. He's like, would you all like to to try this on the house. We'll just split it up.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, yeah, you dummy. Like, we're not going to just pour it out and put it in front of our faces. We just ate like 1,000 oysters. So anyway, he wasn't a dummy, but he did pour it out and we did try it. And that was great. And I have a bottle arriving tomorrow. So I'm stonked for that. And then I also saw afterwards when I went home to like look some stuff up about it. I don't know if any of you else reference Breaking Bourbon, because their write-ups on stuff are kind of all over the place. They gave this 14-year proprietor a 4.5, and I
saw that.
Never ever do that. I'm going to try to look at how many things have 4.5s because it couldn't be more than 10. Let's see, based on rating. So there's 3 things that have 5, and there's 4.5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 things. So this Lucky 7 is in line with the A. Bowman cask strength, the Barrel Bourbon Batch 6. I don't know if I know anything about it. Booker's Rye, Elijah Craig 21 year, the 2013 George T. Stagg, and then probably the weirdest of all of them, but also still a really great pour, the Lux Row Double Barrel Bourbon, which was a fantastic bourbon. 12-year Heaven Hill dual barrel mashup. Really, really grab good pocket of flavor that comes from Heaven Hill. But anyway, I think it's Heaven Hill. Yeah, this Lucky 7 to me tasted like he said, I don't think it's my mind playing tricks on me. He was like, oh, I think this is like the step down from King of Kentucky. But if you know me, you know that every year King of Kentucky comes out, I try multiple barrels and take notes on them. So I just kind of get a glimpse of multiple single barrels because I really love it. And this one tasted like several of the 2021 King of Kentuckys that I've had. And so I'm like, I gotta track a bottle of this down.
And
so
that's
I got
Lucky 7. That's Total Wine, right? That's the Total Wine brand?
Dude, I don't even know. He said he emptied out his King of Kentucky bottle and poured the Lucky 7 into it, people. And I'm like, I'm totally gonna do this.
Don't sell it. Don't trade it. Don't pass it off. Okay, I got some notes. But yeah, it seems like people should be looking out for that. Lucky 7 proprietor. What was the age statement on that?
14 years.
All right.
Which would be in line with the age stuff that went to King of Kentucky. But, I'm fairly certain everyone keeps saying it's Barton. But he was like, I don't know if it's Barton. And I honestly don't know. The review from Breaking, I thought Breaking Bourbon was pretty open and transparent about that kind of stuff. And he was like, and they said in the article, he's like, I don't know where the magic stocks are that they're pulling stuff from, but they're pulling some incredible barrels. And so, I don't know. I would, if it was Barton, I don't even know if we know that the Blue Run stuff, if it's Barton or not, but one of those 13.5 single barrels, you remember that, I thought that was fantastic. And George T. Stag Killer. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's also another honey barrel that's a King Kentucky Killer.
When you get a lot of these bourbons, you and I have discussed this, when they get north of 12 years, they bleed together so much. It's really hard to discern. I have notes now. This is fantastic. If you live in the Midwest,
on it again?
115 proof, 14-year-old light whiskey that's rebarreled for a time. They say rebarreled in a used barrel they don't say what. Says specially finished in hand-selected used oak whiskey casks to further enhance the oils and depth of oak flavor notes. What kind of barrel? Lord knows. Maybe I'll reach out to Gene and see if he can tell me. 14 years old, 115 proof, single barrel. I think there was one barrel that was it. I don't know if there's the Hezekiah Crane did one other product, but this is the only deep oak that they did to my knowledge. Vanilla bean frosting. It's got this dried strawberry with lime finish with caramel drizzle. It's got a slightly carbonic oak note. It's not drying at all, but the oak is not like deep, sweet, rich brown sugar oak. It's like there's oak there, but it's kind of a little ashy. But then I'm gonna drop this note, and this may be the only time I do it, but it's butter. It's butter running down my beard, across my chest. It's buttery. It's got this kind of saltiness, and it's so viscous and oily. Like what they're talking about. Granted, it's suggested to me, so I'm sensitive to that. But I think they crushed it. Like the viscosity is unlike any other whiskey I've had. It's turned up to 11, and I heartily give it a stamp of approval. I love this Obtainium light whiskey, but this is something special. Heard it here first. Okay. You ready to do this thing? You ready to shift over into the whiskey journey? This special,
I should have. When you were struggling with the wax, I should have struggled. I should have struggled too.
I think people. Let's just all pause for a moment and watch Brian mess with this, because that will be fun.
All right. How fast can I get into it?
It's going to take a while. This is going to be a process. This may take us. We'll try and. Well, we've got Sawyer's timer. We'll use that maybe to help speed things along if we take a little bit of time here.
Out.
Oh my gosh. Terry,
yeah, so Tony, Tony, we have been swapping samples of it on Discord because it tastes completely different than any other Barton we've tried. Tony, you need to figure out if you can get us in contact with Jay or get us in contact with whoever we need to so that we can get a Lucky 7 pick. Because if our bourbon can get one, then that means that Blake would go in on one with us if he should be able to get.
Oh, we'll holla at him. Speaking of picks, Brian, we lost you. Well, this isn't good. Well, anyway, I'll talk about picks. Brian just has to give me a date when he can come up, and then we're in with Driftless. It's done. Brian just has to tell me when he'll be here, and if he can't make it happen soon, I'm going by myself. We're going to go to Driftless Glen. The Middle West pick has shipped from Middle West, so it's, I think, either at the distributor or almost there, and then it's got to move over to Blake. But that's coming. I did do a write-up on that pick. I compared it to Stag Junior Batch 14. Gosh, guys, it's that good. And that will, that's going to go live on Patreon in the next week or so. All right, you're back.
I have no idea what happened.
And then we have to...
Blake and all disappeared.
Text him while you're texting him. Ask him about those Starlight picks. Like one of those. When can we give those to Naish? Because some of those were extraordinary, too. So, yeah, lots of fun, picky stuff coming. And then next up is we got a new riff. We got to make that happen. Okay. Gosh, I don't even know where to. The downside with this blind is I don't know where to store it. So we have 5 samples. I've got 5 glasses here. I'm going to pour them all out. That's where we're going to start.
Oh, Tim, y'all are silly with this internet stuff. I even took photos before this because Drew always gives.
I didn't take photos, but
Drew always gives me crap about this. Why don't y'all watch this 320 speed that I got here, and then tell me that I need to invest. When Drew first had me start doing this, I upgraded my internet. Did Drew do that? No. He just wants to keep yelling at me about it. I give you everything, Nation. No ads on the channel all the time. Delivering tons of content. Upgraded internet. Drew's trying to sabotage me.
I didn't do that. Not me. That ain't me. Are you pouring these suckers out?
I was too busy defending my integrity of honor.
Ranting and raving like a lunatic.
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay. To be fair, it does seem like your camera has a problem. But
yeah, I don't know what's going on with it today.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think the
Nicholas, my upspeed was 180.
Oh, that was weird. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to set that one aside. Holy buckets. Lord have mercy. Swimming pool, dude. That one was 100% a friggin' swimming pool.
That doesn't sound good.
Wow, that is bizarre. Holy smokes. Wow. Yeah, so I can't forget about it, but that's all I'm smelling. It's like that wafts. There's a chlorine, plasticky. There's also something interesting. Like there's some oak or some kind of finish, but there's also this swimming pool note on the nose. That's number 5 for me. All right. So let's do this, shall we? I'm gonna start with 1, and then we'll have you see if you have something that kind of smells like it. Cool? Does that sound like a good place to start? Oh yeah, Tom Lynch. Thank you, dude. So y'all, you can click the link Tom just shared. Brian and I will not be clicking that. We have sealed results. So y'all can follow along with
Jeff.
what we're tasting.
Jeff is basically saying I have the bottled and bond of internet service right now. I've got the authenticity and I got the purity, but I don't have the quality.
Yeah, it's not the size of the
amazing.
tool; it's how you use it.
That's hilarious. I like that, Jeff. I like that a lot.
So you up for this? I'm gonna do an assessment of 1, and I'm gonna talk through it, and you're gonna see we'll do it just based on nose. We'll see if you have something that seems reminiscent. This is gonna take forever.
No, it won't. I thought about asking if you could put a timer, like a digital timer on here.
Yeah, we probably can, but there we go. We got the high-tech Sawyer timer.
Oh my gosh, I got Tom asking me for pings.
1 is Kool-Aid and black pepper. It is spicy, punchy, reminiscent of a bourbon, but a young one. Could be finished because it's also fruity. Yeah, really harsh. A lot of black pepper. Just not at all polished.
Could be 4.
But really fruity. It's very red fruit with like a youthful spirit, but not the bready note. There's no bready note in there. But then I get this Mondo black pepper. Okay. So that's 1. Now I'll go to 2. So I'll talk through all mine. Yes. And then you can kind of assess, like, write some notes. Hopefully you got some notes. And then I'm going to let you talk through yours, and then we'll try and triangulate. So I'll try and go fast.
Yeah. I'm about it.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to hit the palate on these as we go, too, just to try and speed things up. Yeah, palate holds up. It could be kind of an American single malt. Hella dry. So dry on the finish. Not sweet. Granted, I'm coming off a truly extraordinary whiskey. That's probably not helping. But I get some sawdust here. It's actually not too dissimilar from the first Dancing Goat pick I had, which was very sawdusty. Everything I said on the nose, the same on the palate, but much less fruity. I'm gonna write here my notes. Spicy, very spicy, fruity. Not in a rice spicy, not in a green like fun herbaceous, citrusy spicy. It's spicy in terms of like charcoal, black pepper, like woody without being sweet and woody without being well aged.
I don't know that we have a similar one based off your description to your 1.
All right.
He said at least 2 were the same though, right?
That's what we got to pick. We got to pick the 2 that are the same.
Cool.
But here's the thing: is my 1, like if it's my 2 and your 4, those could be the same. That's what we have to try. So I'm gonna actually create like I'm gonna write it and then I'm gonna try and connect them as we go. All right, number 2. Here we go.
Yep.
2 smells a little younger, a little maltier, a little breadier.
Yeah, that's 4.
But it still has a little fruit. It still has a little like red fruit on it. So it is definitely a younger whiskey. It's not massively offensive though. It's not the swimming pool I got in D5. So but it's young.
Okay.
It's sweet. It's kind of weeded, kind of like weeded profile.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's 4. Keep going.
Okay. The proof is probably small. Like it's not a high proof product. I'll say that too. It's probably in the 90 to 100 proof.
That's where we could be wrong.
I could also be wrong. No, I mean it hits hot. So finish is hot. Up front it's kind
I
of
would say in like
smooth.
the one, like
Finish is hot.
110.
Okay.
Do you get a little peachy? Do you get a little peachiness on it? That's what I'm curious about. A little bit of peachy sweetness.
So you're saying on yours peachy sweetness. Let me come back to it. Let me think peach, but not overemphasize the peach.
That's my 4. Because I think that nose, it's got that bready, younger, youthful nose.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of like not Driftless Glen. What's the other one that's in that sort of Woodenville, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, Wilderness Trail or Woodenville. I think I would have said apple. I don't think I get full peach, but it's very apple-y.
I can get that like apple cider.
Yeah.
Either way, I mean, it still might not be, so I'm not gonna let those notes sway me. I'll write that down for you.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's close.
I'm writing down my notes too: sweet, smooth, young, bready, apple, kind of tart a little bit.
Dan, that's funny, man.
Tom is awesome.
Yeah, I'm lucky that Tom didn't send my OnlyFans link, because normally around this time we're about to switch over to the OnlyFans, and I know that Tom's one of my top members over there. So,
you ready? You ready for 3?
Always.
I don't know that I am. I think he's Porkins is just messing with me at this point. This is an interesting nose. It is oaky. It's woody. But there's kind of like a seaside, salty, savory seaweed thing that's almost scotchy. Like a suggestion of peat. And we'll see when I get to the palate. Maybe it's just kind of a smoky nose, but the seaside vibe plus the oak / smoke is what's like. But the color on it is really dark. So, yeah, it's an interesting nose. I'm not like, oh, that's an extraordinary nose, but it's interesting, and it smells like it spent some time in a barrel. It's definitely got.
Tom's giving me all the
definitely has some peat influence. 3 has got peat. We have some peat. Here, people. Now my palate's gonna be ruined, but
is it kind of herbally, kind of sawdusty?
It's peated. So hold on. I said seaweed, so yeah. I mean, it's like, and it's salty. This is either a peated American whiskey or it's a well-aged peated Scotch. What did he say? Let's go back and read what he said for everybody. And also, like, for those of you who weren't in at the start, let me just reread. We'll take a break. I'll come back to this one in a minute. We each have 5 samples. You have at least 2 samples that are the same. You'll never be drinking the same product at the same time. Brian's number 1 and Drew's number 1 are different, and so on. You each have at least 3 samples that are whiskey. You each have at least 4 samples from the United States, so not all of our samples might be whiskey. You need to work as a team. So one of my samples is not from the United States. It may be 3, but it also may not be. Need to work as a team. That's what we're doing. Taste through the samples, give your notes, and ask questions to each other. The goal is to figure out which samples you have that are identical and what are different. If you want to, make guesses, but you are unlikely to get anything exactly correct. I'm not even really trying. We're just triangulating. I mean, I'm trying to triangulate. I'm not trying to guess what it is. I tried to be fair on differences. I didn't send 2 single barrels from one distillery and expect you to call them as different. If there are 2 different bottles from one distillery, they will be bottled by different brands and have different mash bills. Like if there were 2 MGP, one would be high rye, one would be the low rye or high corn, and they could be different brands from different companies. All right. So 3 is a peated something. It's smoky as all get out, but it also has some oak and also has some dried fruit sweetness, kind of a pruny vibe. It's intense in terms of proof. Like a lot of these scotches are 80 some, 86 proof. And this feels like it's been turned up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was an American malt whiskey with some peat influence. It's not bad.
Does it taste like it? Does it taste finished to you? Does it taste like it has any wine finish influence?
I think it could. Like, I don't think if this is
possible
an
yours
malt,
could be. It could be similar to my 2. My 2 has this really chewy wine finish. Like it kind of reminds me of the Westland, but not as hot. I've had some of the Westland 5 malt stuff that's been like chewy and fruity and a little chocolatey, grainy, but it's super hot, and this isn't.
But are you getting, Brian? Are you getting peat though? You remember peat? Peat smoke.
Yeah, peat and peat. I remember both of them.
So are you?
It smells. So I don't think 2 is the same as of right now. 2 to me smells like a dusty, and tastes like a wine finished product.
Okay, I mean, peat is. You would be like, no, that's. I think you would be like, whoo, whoo, whoo.
I don't.
Based on when we did the malt tasting from Porkins,
I don't know that I have any that are peated on my.
Okay, all right.
Unless it's
so.
No, I don't think I have any peated ones that are here on my flight.
I gotta purge. I gotta reset, and I'm gonna set this one aside because I don't want it to influence my olfactories. I need to purge. What do I need to purge with? What would be a good purge whiskey? Something I know.
I can start talking about not notes of mine if you want. Unless you don't want any more information right now.
No, let me finish going through mine, and then we're gonna go through yours. Because what did we already say? 2 has an allusion to your 4. My 2 is similar to your 4.
Yeah,
that's where we're at so far.
Yep.
Okay, we're back. Okay, now I'm on to my number 4.
My number 5 tastes like a scotch.
Okay, is it?
So I'm going to keep that in mind in regards to
like smoky scotch.
It smells buttery. It smells like paint thinner. So it smells like a scotch to me.
Okay. So that was your number 5.
The taste is like sawdust and vanilla. It's not very smoky. It's like peaty sawdust.
Peat is smoke.
It's not heavily peated.
Yeah, no. It's not like a peat bomb. I would agree with you. It's just evident.
But it's also
let's come.
It's very.
Okay. I agree. Like there was some good texture there. So maybe 3.
A nice little bite of spice.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. It's got spice. It's herbaceous.
It's higher proof if it is a scotch.
Yes. Yep. That's what I said as well. So
okay.
3 and 5
maybe.
Close. Yeah, maybe. So I'm gonna say 2 might be my 2 might be your 4. My 3 might be your 5. But let me get on to my number 4 and see if there's anything where you're like, oh yeah, maybe. Okay. 4 is light on the nose. Almost ginny, bright citrus. Honestly, like refreshing after what I just drank, which was fine. It just like was dark and deep and oceanic. This is not a whiskey. I don't think 4 is a whiskey. I don't know what it is. It's not a whiskey. It is very citrusy. It's on what's that citrus liqueur that you use in margaritas?
Triple sec?
Yeah. It's like an aged triple sec. That's the vibe I'm getting. It's bitter.
Oh, Jimmy, don't get me started on the Legos, dude.
It's orange peel kind of factors. And it's bitter. Like, but it's not like a bad whiskey bitter. It tastes like it's intentionally bitter. This tastes like some kind of aged orange liqueur. Curacao. It could be Curacao.
Okay.
Which I don't know much about Curacao,
Brandy?
but I'm trying to think of aged.
Maybe
no, not.
I've had
brandy.
and it's not high proof.
No, it could be. Could very well be.
I've had a Copper and Kings barrel strength brandy that tastes like Trix cereal.
No,
which I feel like Trix hits on the lime and citrus a little bit more than some of the other fruit flavors, but okay. So
I mean, I've had a decent amount of cognacs and brandies, but this is so citrusy and has this orange peel bitter finish that it just does, I don't get. Oh yeah, that's brandy. Like, So yeah,
this is your 4, huh?
Stuff. That's 4. Yeah. So right, orange bitter, not a bad bitterness. Please don't read into that, but more like a dank IPA. So orange bitter, still aged, still got some oak, syrupy, sweet.
It's
refreshing.
5 and 4, similar.
I mean, if you mix this with Sprite, oh my gosh,
what about
like a
Squirt?
lemon lime.
What if you mix it with Squirt?
Yeah, I mean, either way, the same family.
Somebody remember Citra?
After meal. What's that? A digestif? That's what I like. I think that's the family we're in.
Nice. A digestif.
Yeah. I mean, I know things.
Tom, I'm just getting ready for the I'm just teasing my Trick cereal photo shoot on OnlyFans tonight.
Gosh. I don't think it's possible for people in Whiskey Tube to do a live stream without joking about OnlyFans. I'm not sure why this is. All right, 5 is that was the swimming pool rubber. Big rubber vibes. And it is kind of like, if you buy one of those inflatable swimming pools for your kids, it has that really funky smell. You got your mouth on it, you're blowing it up, and you get that taste and smell. Excuse me. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this. It's not exciting on the nose. It's not awful. Like, it's not like, oh gosh, but it's like, my goodness, that is just not something I feel like I want to put into my body. But here we go.
I don't have any pool water ones. So
really high proof, super hot. Actually, kind of fun on the palate. Like, this is just a weird product. Super hot. I mean, we got to be near hazmat on this. Woo! So this may be... I have a weird guess on this. It's weird enough, mellow enough, not cakey, but that 150 proof Canadian whiskey that Mash and Journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the people, it's about the vodka.
Right.
Both those guys are great guys. We give them crap about their sign-offs, but they're amazing people. So cheers to those guys. And they've done some amazing barrel page from what I understand. So I don't want to just give them a hard time.
Cracking me up.
I missed it, guys. I'm just gonna read.
Oh gosh.
I'll catch up on it later. It's fine. Anyway, this is high proof. It's mellow. It's got kind of a plasticky thing. I hope it was funny for everybody else too, because I just missed it. I think this is either light whiskey or Canadian whiskey. Number 5. Really, really hot. Really simple. Kind of vanilla. I get this plasticky component. Not a lot else going on. Not. I mean, it's actually I'm enjoying the palate okay, but it's just really, 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 really hot. So, I would bet a lot of money it's either Canadian or light whiskey. All right. Now hopefully we're past that. I know we're discussing safe words, which is fine. I hope people are having. That's what this place is for. It's a safe space. This is a safe word space.
I'm going to make a video, and all I'm going to do is just say all of your safe words in one straight line. So keep them coming. Okay. So I have what I think based on what you said.
Moist.
Jeez. Mine doesn't get that loud when I get close to it, does it?
Moist.
I can't handle this. So I have what I think is similar. I'm going to go through. I've got my notes. I've got your notes.
Yeah.
I've got what I think similar. So I'm just going to.
I'm ready to write down your notes. So
nose and taste
through yours.
I'm going to nose and taste harder.
Okay.
That's my safe word.
Is it though?
Okay. No. Okay. So
number one. Brian's number one.
The number one is slightly medicinal. In like a licorice cherry band-aid kind of way. It could be, I don't know what it could be. That's what I get on the nose. Palate wise, it's young, herbal, it's dry, a little bit of sawdust, a little bit of like almond. That's about it. It's
okay.
There's not a lot to it. It tastes youthful. It tastes dry. Pretty simple. The almond note is pretty popping. Pretty popping. So I'm gonna leave it.
That kind of sounds like my number one.
Yeah, but they can't be the same number. He said we'll never drink the same thing.
Oh yeah, that's true. So that it does not equal. So yeah, that's true.
But it's not as peppery as what you said. So I'm doing this afterwards. Okay, so going to number two. Number two on the nose smells like a dusty. It's so you know what I assume that this is? Dusty. The fact that it smells like a dusty makes me think that this is a brandy or an Armagnac. Because I told you it has that wine-like sweetness to it. I'm going to assume that this is like a Chateau de la Baude or the what's the other brand? The orange wax brand?
Yeah, La Encantada. La Encantada. I have one of them.
I'm going to assume it's something like that. It's chewy. It's got a lot of wine influence. It's really deep on the palate, saturating. Dude, it's
nothing like that.
It's got to be an old brandy. It's lovely.
Cool. Nice.
Musty, funky, enjoyable. But you say you have nothing like that, so I'll keep moving on.
Nothing.
Again,
sounds fun though.
Yeah. I'm gonna. Yeah, I will probably say it's like a 23-year-old Armagnac or something like that. Okay.
I gotta give it real quick. I gotta give it to Porkins. This is a ton of fun too. This is a great left turn from our usual shtick, which is also really fun. So, Nation, if you're enjoying this and you want to participate, we would love to shout you out as a sponsor of a video. And if you are a big supporter of the channel, like Porkins, we'll send you some stuff too. If you want to send us some blinds and contribute to Thursday nights, just holler at your boys. Instagram really is the best way to get a hold of us. DM at Droopy Whiskey, at Abandoned Bourbon, at Entry Proof Pod, and then we'll figure it out. All right, what's next?
Yeah, number three is pretty sweet on the nose. It's kind of got it kind of smells almond. I know where one I said it was kind of almondy. It's like almond paste a little bit. It's fruity. It's
like marzipan. Almond paste is marzipan. So
yeah, it's like marzipan and fruit, and berry fruit specifically. So it's kind of chewy. It's kind of fruity. It's pretty middle of the road, like, whiskey, bourbon. On the palate, dude, it's nice, sweet. You get notes of honey, notes of vanilla. It's syrupy on the palate with like a fruity touch of oakiness. Like it's solid. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean,
I wish I had something like that too. That
I wrote
great.
It's not as hot, but what I had noted is this would be like an E.H. Taylor barrel proof, or
I don't have anything like that.
Or maybe I'm surprised with like a Stag, and I say a Stag Junior or something because it's got the notes that I typically would attribute to like. I mean, it's got a profile that makes me think craft, but they're the same pocket of flavors that I would attribute to a barrel strength Buffalo Trace, and I have to say that because it tastes barrel strength. It tastes higher than like 90 proof or 100 proof.
Okay. All right. I don't think I have something that tastes like that.
Chewy caramel. It's good. I'm pretty happy with it. It could be a new riff, one of the lower proof new riffs. Anyway, go into 4. All right, 4 on the nose. Man, 4 on the nose is sweet. It's decadent. It's a little bit spiced, but it's mainly like pancakes. Like it's kind of got a sweet nose.
This is the one you said peachy on. I got some breadiness to this. I like, we thought this might be my number 2.
Yeah, it smells like pancakes. The more
I get that. So I get a pancakey. I can see that. I'll be embarrassed
on the palate,
if I'm wrong. But...
The palate tastes like a barrel strength pinhook. Or what's the other brand? Like Blue Run. Who has those flavors I've talked to you about?
Penelope.
That comes from it's got that cloying kind of wheat profile mixed with like a little bit of cinnamon dough. It's peachy,
it's definitely got dough.
Vanilla.
2 has dough. Yeah. I thought it was more appley. It's sweet. It's smooth. It's inoffensive AF.
I mean, peachy, appley, bready, vanilla. That's what I get.
Okay. I think we're probably in consensus that 2 and 4 are very similar.
Yeah.
What's painful right now is Nation knows. The people who are watching this know if we're right or wrong. So we'll see.
That's okay.
All right.
That's okay.
All right.
Harder.
Keep going.
Okay. Number 5.
Moist.
All right. Now this one kind of smells dusty again. But it smells like a man, it's like cinnamon and malt. It smells like cinnamon and malt. It's a little bit more savory of a sweetness.
But are you getting peat? Like, that's where we were stuck. Is like, I have one that's peated, and you're like, this kind of.
It has to be. It has to be. Based on everything else we've concluded, it has to be the peated one. It just doesn't smell overly peated.
You don't necessarily have a peated one.
We have to, because 2 of these have to match.
Two
of these have to match. You said you have nothing you said you have nothing that tastes like 1 to 3.
Well,
okay, let me go to the palate. It is vanilla, peachy, malty, with a spicy bite in the end.
Yeah, big spice.
But dude, it's solid. It's really good.
Describe that spice to me. It is interesting. I'll
this
say
spice
that.
This spice so sweet right away. Then it gets dry, like youthful almost, but then it dissipates across the palate like a spray head. It gets like it's more like ancho chili or something like that. Like it's like chili pepper like spice on the palate.
Yeah, do you get sort of a tobacco, like a spicy tobacco, like if you're eating Mexican food while smoking a cigar? Because
Yes.
I'm hearing you with the chili. All right.
Well, the chili hits you with the spice, and then it as it fades away, it leaves more of that dry tobacco-y linger.
Okay. All right. I think that my 2 is your 4 and my 3 is your 5. I think.
That's what I have. That's what I have.
Unless we're gonna take all night. All right. Do you want to wrap it there? Do you want to make any guesses about your whiskeys before we do the reveal?
So I do think 2 is an Armagnac.
Your 2 is an Armagnac.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and say it's a 20. I'll say it's a 23 year.
Nice. And then your 3
I will say it's
awesome too.
I will say that 2. I'm going to say that 2 is from whatever that company is that's orange. I forget it. 3 is
Blind Cantata.
It's got to be craft though. This has got to be
3. An awesome.
I'm going to say it's new
whiskey.
riff. I'm going to say it's a new riff, like a low proof new riff.
Cool.
But I'm probably wrong because it's probably
there is no It's like new riff single barrels are all like, I guess low proof could be low 100 proofs, but
it's not as cinnamon like. But again, I don't know. It's got some proof. 4. Wait, let me go back to 1. 1's the one I don't know. It's that young, kind of more youthful. Man, it smells familiar on the nose. Honestly, shoot, what would this be? I know I've tasted something like this. Lee W. Sinclair 4 grain.
Nice, okay. From that's French Lick, right?
Yeah. I'm looking at the bottle over here. I'm just gonna say it because it tastes kind of oaty. It tastes kind of young.
Milo.
We're just gonna say it.
Otis.
So right. 4 I initially said it was a Woodinville.
Yeah, it's Woodinville or Wilderness Trail. It's a good craft whiskey. That's what it is. It's not new riffy. It's
I'm gonna
mellow.
say Woodinville, personally. Okay, now 5. This is the tricky one. The one I have no clue how to place.
Yeah. I mean, this could very well be a Scotch.
I'm gonna say it's a.
We have 3 American whiskeys. So real quick, we have Brookladic.
I don't know.
Okay, so that was my 3. I mean, there is oak on here for sure.
5 is good.
Yeah, as far as peated scotches go, that is a well-aged product.
This is going to be like,
unless we're completely off the reservation. Yeah. Okay. 1 to me was spicy, fruity, dry, young, and harsh.
Someone's talking about hot wings, and I want hot wings so bad right now.
It's fine. It's light. It could be a young MGP. I mean, it really could be anything. I think 1, I'll just say that. 1 is young MGP. It's kind of spicy, kind of fruity, but very young. Could be Smoke Wagon, small batch. 2 was what you thought was Woodinville. I said could be Wilderness Trail. 2, so 3 was the peated one. Who knows? 4 is the orangey, bitter, digestif. Really interesting. I like this actually, and would do very well in certain cocktails and would hit the spot, but I have no idea what the heck it is. Ryan BH, Milo and Otis is awesome. Best kids movie ever. And then 5 was this plasticky Canadian light whiskey, but is by far the most funky phenolic light whiskey I've had, if that's what it is.
Did you say, let me ask you a question real quick. Did you say that you got a chance to try? Oh, Brian. Awesome, dude. Yeah, sorry about that. And I tried to keep up to date, but like I say, things in Kentucky move fast. Let me know about
they do move fast. Saturday.
Even though we couldn't turn around and go back, I felt bad for my bro-in-laws. They were excited about it. Swore. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. That's how it is sometimes. And it's Friday. It's Thursday, and I've not heard of any drop at either of them this week. So what did the what was the distillery that did the Oh shoot, it's the Tennessee one. That it's not Tennessee.
Nelson
The
Greenbrier?
Chattanooga.
Oh, Chattanooga.
This
doesn't taste like that. That was pure gasoline.
So 3 is not that. Okay.
I don't think so, because you're 5, my 3. That one smelled like gasoline. It could be that. it could very well be that.
Number 5 or the 3? I'm talking about the one that's we have in common. I was wondering if it was that.
My 3, your 5. Mm-hmm. It could be that. It's peated. It's oaky and peated. I didn't get the off-putting.
I'm just gonna guess. I'm gonna say whatever. Pete.
Yeah.
Peated.
5. What I will say is 5 for me could not be American. If that was not American, then that would make 3 have to be American. In which case, it very well could be Chattanooga Scotch cask, which I just had. But maybe Porkins pulled a fast one. All right, squad. Here we go. We're gonna do this review. Again, super fun, and I'm just so eager to figure out what this is.
Yeah, Porkins is the best.
Yeah, well, we have an essay here, so I will read this for you all, which you guys know. Number 1 for Drew. Oh, I don't have yours, so you just have mine. So I'll read mine. But we're dialed, I'll say that. Number 1 is a Bullet single barrel pick, which I thought was spicy, fruity, dry, and young MGP. It may very well be Bullet, honestly. So Bullet bourbon single barrel, Park Hill Ego ammunition, 7-year, which is young for the Bullet single barrels. Number 2, which we thought we had in common, which would have been your 4, was Woodinville straight bourbon whiskey finished with toasted applewood staves single barrel selected for Bob's. Is that
we were
off
right? Then? Nope, we were off.
Dang it.
We were off.
Well, to be fair,
that was my 1.
Get out. So 2 was your 1. But I was rightish in the Woodinville category. Anyway. 3, which we thought was your 5. Westland American Single Malt, number 5700, Symposium. Rare Bird 101, Malt Review, Keg and Bottle, Private Barrel Pick. It's a 5 malt spirit.
Tequila. I told you there was a Westland 5 malt in here. I told you at first that I thought it was. Wait, one of them I thought was. Oh no! I said 2 was Westland, but I was still wrong.
So, was that your 5 or not? Did we get that right?
No, we were off. 2. We were off on that.
Gosh! Oh my gosh! So this says tequila cooperage. Tequila. It's smoky. I don't know if it's peated or not.
This is the worst.
It doesn't say. It's embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing.
But
these are all over the place.
Smoke here. There's this. I stand by the fact that there's peat in here somewhere, or it's a smoked tequila, which they make. Actually, it's called mezcal. Number 4 for me was the orange bitter age, sweet, refreshing. 4 square exceptional cask Barbados rum, 12-year. Don't know what cask they used on this, but a Barbados rum, which it tasted nothing like a rum. Maybe we got mixed up. Who knows? 5 was High Wire Distilling Jimmy Red Bourbon, 112.7 proof.
That was my pick. 4. That's the one that I said was peachy, like a Woodinville.
Okay. I could see how you could pull peachy from this, but it is so hot. 112.7 proof. It is so hot.
It's pretty. I disagree.
It explodes on my palate. It's the hottest thing ever. Unbelievable.
It's super vanilla-y.
I get more peach. If we would have drilled down on peach and you're like, hey, find a peach one.
But to be fair,
I was turned off by the rubber note.
So I said peach. I get that rubber now. I said that peach. I often notice this peachy note in these young, this says it's 3 years, 3 months.
Yeah, it's young.
It's those young ones you get that peachy tone. Weird.
Little pro tip from Porkins here. Note on bullet. If you don't know how to read a bullet single barrel label, the second two-digit code gives you the relevant information. In this case, E is the 21% rye mash bill. Quite a coincidence that E is the 20% Four Roses. And 3 is the number of the yeast classified by Bullet's master blenders as contributing a strawberry fruit flavor. Doesn't that sound like Four Roses O yeast, which is also number 3 in their charts? Yes, it does. This may have been a little mean putting this up against the Four Roses pick, but different proofs, different mash bills, different yeasts, and different ages make me think you should be able to put a finger on them, be able to finger them as as different. Yeah, we sucked at this, Porkins. Which is, I mean, it's interesting. So let's go through it. So number 2, which was my Woodinville, we thought was your number 4, which was what? What was your number 4?
My number 4 was the High Wire Distilling Jimmy Red Bourbon.
The peachy one. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and I got apple. I get Big Apple on my number 2, where I do get peach on number 5. I apologize. But you also said Woodinville, and I was like, yeah, that's number 2, which was Woodinville. But mine was finished in toasted applewood stage, so I said apple. So boom, like I feel like I'm justified in the mistake, and this is just really hard. Okay, and then I said number 3, which was the Westland American Single Malt, which had some kind of tequila influence, maybe smoke of some kind, I would imagine. Was your number 5? What was your number 5?
My number 5 was Copper and Kings Butchertown Reserve Casks American Brandy.
Which you said it might be brandy. I think we'd have to play the tape back. Roll it back, people.
I did say something about
betting on us.
I did say, well, I mean, I wrote down Chattanooga Pita, but you're right. Somewhere along the way, I said, I think it was something you were talking about. I did say something sounded like a cast strength brandy. It was the one I said, a Trix. When was the comment about Trix come into play?
That had nothing to do with that. I think that may have been when I hit number 4. And I was like, this is Citrus Bomb E shenanigans. And you're like, oh, no, I don't. Hold on. Let me see. When did you say Trix?
This is funny.
Yeah.
It's whatever you said was really
I don't have anything. Yeah,
but it doesn't matter because you wouldn't. It wouldn't matter because you didn't have it. I had it.
Yeah,
so,
right. All right, so just take us through your list then.
Yeah, so number 1 for me was the Woodinville Straight Bourbon Whiskey, finished with toasted applewood staves.
Yeah, you said medicinal, licorice, Band-Aid,
herbal young sawdust. Which is still pretty close for Woodinville.
Yeah, I just gave it a better review. I said appley, smooth, bready, but I did say young. I said sweet. So you just hit that one harder than I did.
This is the one I got way wrong. So I said 2 was chewy, wine-like. It was St. James rum, Vio Agricole.
Well, you thought it was Armagnac, so you were in the sweet spirit category. I feel like you were close enough.
Yeah, that was good. AOC Martinique, selected by Navy Strength Seattle. Distillation date. Oh, that's weird. The distillation date was 8/6/2015. But it's only 5 years old. I said it was a 23-year-old Armagnac, and it was a 5-year-old rum.
Nice.
Anyway, that was
you said you liked that one. So
yeah, it was good. It was good.
Get your hands on.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a good pour. 3 is the one I said could be like a light EHA the barrel proof because it had that, it had honey and vanilla and syrupiness and oak. Mine was a 9-year, 7-month Four Roses OBSK.
Nice.
So surprised me for sure. Definitely did not pin it as being a Four Roses product.
Yeah. What did I do with the?
I mean, tasting it now, I can. But that came out of nowhere. It was really good though in this lineup. And it's
Yeah,
still
well, I
good
mean,
now.
that was the notes you gave describing it were generally positive.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 4 was the Highwire Distilling
Yep.
Jimmy Red Bourbon.
Mhm.
And then number 5 was the Copper and Kings Apple Brandy.
Right. Cool.
So got everything wrong. Everything.
Yeah, so we all lose. I mean, it's fun to collaborate and be like, hey, let's try and dial this in. And it's, I think, understandable the mistakes we made, why we made them, given the way that we describe these products. But there's
we suck again.
There's no solace to take from this, other than we got to try a lot of really interesting stuff. So I just poured a little bit of one again, which was the bullet pick. Still spicy, still fruity.
I wonder if he was hoping that we would dial in the bullet to the Four Roses, thinking it's the same.
The bullet pick I had before was delightful.
What number was your bullet pick?
Dude, I don't know. This one was...
I mean, it should be on your sheet what number it was.
Yeah. I mean, not the one I had before, the one I bought. This is the sample. It's not very good, I don't think. Barrel number 2-E3-01010-7.
No. What number of your 1 to 5?
Number 1.
Number 1. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I do
Lots
not
of
like
black
it.
pepper. It's a black pepper.
Big black pepper. Yeah. Young, harsh, dry. Not great. Yeah, I mean, compared to the single barrel pick I had, I am really not vibing on that. The Woodinville was okay. The Westland was really interesting, and I swear there's a smoke influence. Somebody's smoking something around that barrel. 4 was the rum, which Foursquare Exceptional Cast 2008 Barbados rum. Which I was like, this is orange. It's pure orange. It's bitter. It's not rummy at all. I stand by that. Stand by that 100%.
Tom, the Highwire, I personally think the Highwire is good. Again, it does hit on the notes that I have here.
Hot.
I think it's a little bit bready. I think it's a tiny bit youthful in like a craft sort of way. It's got some peachiness. It's got some vanilla. Those are the notes that I had. I still hit those. So,
I would agree on the peach. Apricot. I don't know if you say apricot. I say apricot. It's fruity and it's stone fruit and it's in the peach family.
Nice,
and
juicy
that's really
finish.
Unique. How does it get
good.
that? Yeah, it's really unique for sure. I don't know how I feel about it. It's hot still for me, but it's unique and fruity.
It has like a creamy oatiness to the linger too. It's good. It's like it's better than one. It's better than
the
one.
The Jimmy Red, I think, is 100% corn mash bill. Pretty sure. The Highwire Jimmy Red. Pretty sure.
I would drink that. I would consume that. That's tasty. It's sweet. It's enjoyable. It doesn't come off super youthful, except for that bready note. But I mean, I think I'm using it more as a positive.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah, the bread is
Steel
more
box.
subtle. Yeah, it's not like a bread dough, super raw grain. All right, well, we're close to 10. Real quick, Brian, a few folks have mentioned Matt Madness. You were drafted into that.
Yep.
There was the recording last Friday, I think, which was weird, where nobody got their samples, and so you guys all faked it, and it was mildly entertaining, and the tunes were fun. But when are you guys actually making that happen? When's the makeup date for that?
The late on the 11th, we are going to be doing a makeup date. So he's doing another invitational for his normal time. And then he's going to roll into ours after. So we're going to be doing it at like 11:30 the night after that night. So it'll be a long day for me. But
well, I'm sure you'll post about that. I'm sure you'll at least share a story or something saying, hey, by the way. So, Nation, if you want to catch Brian on Matt Porter's channel at Abandoned Bourbon, that's actually at ADHD, but Brian's at Abandoned Bourbon. You can do that. Which, I mean, I was on pins and needles. I was like, man, Brian, let's go. You know, I get competitive and I want you to win. So I'm like, let's go, dude. I believe in you. And then at the end, it was all a lie. I felt like I had invested myself into a lie. That was a
it makes me curious. It makes me curious what's going to happen. But both the other dudes are fantastic. So
yeah, it was good dudes on the stream for sure.
As much, I'm the only. They were both on last season, I believe. But either way,
you're a virgin.
I'm happy to. I'm a virgin.
Matt Madness virgin.
I'm happy to learn. I'm happy to learn. The dudes are great to hang out with anyway. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Perry seems like one of those guys. Like the more we've interacted with Perry, I don't think he's still on here, but he just seems like everybody's best friend. Like the kind of person you meet.
And the thing that was silly the thing that was silly that we learned about that night is that we typically all go back to back. So Perry's on at 8, we jump on at 9, but then Bourbon Bites goes on at 10. He's on right now. Okay. So we're the Thursday night club. So
I did think about silly. Changing our evenings, but Thursdays work generally really well for me. So like we could probably face less competition on a different night, but Thursdays work.
Yeah, that was the only downside about that particular event is I was supposed to go out with Tom and I didn't get to because of that.
Yeah, that sucks.
It was more for the shtick than anything. Which it is what it is. Also, again, as we're doing our plugs for the end, if you all want more Roses content, I can't actually give you a channel to go look at because until I have 30 days and 100 subscribers, I can't make a channel specifically. But if you go into YouTube and look up the 7th tier, you'll find the new channel all about 4 Roses. So if you want more Roses content, if you love 4 Roses, that's where you're going to want to be. So.
Sweet. Well, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Porkins, again, thank you for supporting the channel in the many ways absolutely. That you do. Just a swell dude. Any parting questions, thoughts, comments, prayer requests before we sign off tonight?
Eric Sawyer, I pray that you can find another one of these OESFs for you and for me. That's my prayer request. Because that bottle was so stinking good.
Which one was that? Was that the Rays?
It doesn't say where it was. It was just that RS79 5M.
Sawyer, where was that one from?
Gosh, it was so good.
Do I have that?
You don't. I don't think you had that one.
Dang it. That's probably the Rays then.
That's one that. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Oh well. So it was Amon's, which I did not. Yeah, that one sold out fast, like lightning.
That one's tasty.
Nation, thank y'all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed our little light whiskey shenanigans and then this very intriguing blind from Porkins. Like I said, if you want to contribute a blind to a Thursday night live, just DM us on Instagram. Check back Droopy Whiskey channel Mondays, 11 o'clock, where I'm dropping new vids. I'm going to record 2 this weekend because I'm headed to Scottsdale for a little R&R time. So next week, no live, unless Brian wants to go live on Abandoned Bourbon. Host somebody, you're welcome to do. In my absence, I might watch by the pool.
Oh, snap. Vacation. Everyone needs to DM me on Instagram if you want that, because I have yet to set up how to do a live.
I want that. I think I want that. I think I want to watch and not be on it. I think that'd be great.
Then I need the DMs. I need the DMs on Instagram. I need people going, go live on YouTube next week. Go live on YouTube next week. Go live on YouTube next week. Or else I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Screw you guys. Unless you
I hear you. So, I mean, Tom Sawyer or Ramage.
Tom Sawyer.
Or even, so at some point, we're going to have, we're not going to do this next week while I'm gone, but Porkins needs to come on. That dude is a wealth of knowledge. So we're going to have Porkins on. You guys will all dig that. Got to have him on very, very soon. But I would love to be able to tune in next Thursday while I'm just like in the hot tub and watch you go live, Brian. So we'll see how it goes. If you need my StreamYard account,
content right there.
No, I mean I'm not. No.
Oh, we just got hit with it. Look, we just got hit with
yeah, Love Face. Yeah, Love Face is back under a new name. Naked HD.
They're going crazy. Let's go.
No. This is great. Online strips without clothing. Like what other kind
just
of,
in time. Just in time.
Oh my gosh. Guys, this is not recommended. There are many reasons for this. I'm just gonna block this person. Anyway, y'all please keep it between the mustard and the mayonnaise.
Get out of here, Naked HD. We've got plenty of me.
Have a good rest of your week. We'll catch you not next week here, but next week in the videos, and then 2 weeks from now for another live. Till then, y'all just freaking keep it neat. See ya.
Cheers, guys.